I'm Becky. I'm part of the Backcountry Militia in Kings Mountain National Military Park. And usually on July 4th weekend, we're doing an encampment to show you how it was in colonial times. One of the things, I'm in the dress of colonial times. We would always wear a head covering or a hat. We would have on our skirt that actually ties in the front and the back. We would have on a pocket to keep our personal belongings in that would be on the side. We would have an apron that we would use when we would go out into the woods or into our kitchen garden to gather things that we want. We would just tuck it in like this, and we have our own basket to bring in the things that we need. I have on the gown that the shirt dress that I wear as my pajamas at night. It is my underclothes. I also have on a short gown over it to cover, and everything that women's clothing had was either tied or pinned. Buttons were expensive, so the men had the buttons, and the women had things that we could let loose or tighten up. Perhaps if we were pregnant, we wouldn't have a thing called maternity clothes. We would just loosen what we had and then tighten it back up. One of my main things that I do at Kings Mountain is the cooking. I took a cooking class, how to cook over a fire. And today you're going to see a demonstration of how to cook over a fire in your own home, in your own kitchen. If I were at Kings Mountain, I would have this over coals that we would make from our wood that we burn down, 2 coals, and this dish would set over coals for an hour or two to cook slowly. We're going to do that with a gas range, and it can also be done on an electric range, just on a low heat. So we will show you how to do that today. This is a very simple recipe. A lot of the meat that we used was pork. It was easier to keep a pig than it was a cow or any other domestic animal. We would also game animals that we would have too. The pork that we're using is a kielbasa sausage. Get them at the store, look like this. Very easy to use. Can you see that? Okay. We also have an onion. I chose a sweet onion because that's what I like, but any onion will do. And apples, any kind of apples, we slice them pretty thin. And a jar of molasses. They were actually very smart in the items that they used. Onions are very good, full of vitamin C, as in the apples, very good for your health. And the molasses contained iron, and we're also cooking in an iron skillet, so they would get their iron in that way. The first thing that you do is cut the kielbasa sausage into medallions. I usually cut them on the diagonal. And after you cut them, you layer them in your skillet, iron skillet. It's a very well seasoned iron skillet. Okay, I've got my medallions placed in my skillet in one layer like that, and I will be slicing my onion. And what we do then is lay the onion slices just on top of the medallions like this.
What?
Next, you take your apples and make them into small slices like this, quarter them, and then you will slice them in thin slices and lay that on top of the onion. If you have a big apple, it usually just takes one big one. My apples are smaller today, And so I've got 2 apples here, but basically just cover the top of the onions. Okay, you see we've got the apples on the dish now, and now it's time to take the molasses. This is just a layer dish. Kielbasa sausage on the bottom in medallions, sliced onions on top, apples on top of that, and then we just seal it with molasses. As this cooks down, the molasses will cook down to the bottom, and it ends up making this a sweet, crunchy dish. Sweet, salty, crunchy dish. Okay. After the molasses, this is when we put them on top of the hot coals. Kind of far off of it because we don't want it to cook quick. If it cooks too quick, the sausage burns and the molasses doesn't get down into all ingredients. So we will put this on a low heat on this gas stove, just a low flame, and it'll cook about an hour. And then after an hour you will see how it looks, and we will have it for our lunch. Looks like our dish is about done. We have finished up after about an hour of cooking, and let's see, taking it out, what it looks like. You can see it's caramelized the onions, and we have the meat here is done. The apples are also caramelized, and we'll give it a taste here to see how it is. Got the meat on the bottom, the onion in the middle, and the apple on top, and we'll just see how good this tastes. That's a keeper. You can also do this over a fire. Do it on your stove. Do it at camping. Makes a good dish. Everyone likes it.